It's day one of the fourth and final round of NZ Superlap at Hampton Downs on a foggy Waikato morning. The top spot in Street, Pro Street and Pro Open classes could go to any number of drivers, with Darryl, Curran and Matt Gray fighting it out for the top spot in Street, while Brendan Purdy's Pro Street dominance is at risk as he's decided to call in sick, meaning that Ashneel and Finlay both have an excellent chance of pipping that Pro Street Series win. Leon Scott leads Pro Open from Greg Hirst and a gaggle of the usual suspects, but he also has the unlimited class effectively sewn up, as much by actually recording results every round as by being blindingly fast, though he's definitely be doing that too. Ashneel and Bruce await the first session, looking like suspicious lookout men in a Guy Ritchie-esque heist. Don't worry guys, you're blending right in. The rest of the field get warmed up, and no, your eyes do not deceive you. That's a Trans Am Series Corvette that appears to have gotten lost and accidentally lined up with the Time Attack nerds. Adrian Rivers leads the first group out, and it's good to see he has his factory fog lights on in the S13. Greg Hirst follows in the 6-cylinder MR2. He's had all sorts of problems this season and will be hoping for a clean round. Aaron Whārero, in line with his policy of just turning up at the last round to mix things up, lobs in his Evo, followed by street class leader Matt Gray in the extremely street legal Supra, while Leon Scott, current open and unlimited class leader, does his usual thing of driving faster than everybody else. Dan Longair, apparently having gotten lost on a family trip to Whakapapa, also makes the overtake in the legacy wagon. Dan starts out aggressively, clocking over 200 kph on his first time past the start-finish line. It's a tentative run through turn 1 with still cold tyres on a still cold track. A heavy foot out of the hairpin tests the Legacy's all-poor grip. A couple of bites at the throttle and a couple of bites at third gear on the way out of the dipper. And it's a 17.0, a respectable time in these conditions in the family wagon. Glenn Hodges and Ben Vanderwerf round out the field. We're on board with past Open class winner Greg Hirst now, in the rapid but inconsistent Turbo V6 MR2, as he passes the Corvette of Brennan Soul and a little gingerly puts the hammer down in an effort to set an early time. A VMAX of 220 and he's on the brakes for turn 1, feeling out the limits of adhesion on what is still a horrible chilly morning. A short shift at turn 3 to keep all those extra turbos and cylinders from doing anything untoward over the crest as the track drops away at corner exit. He's flat knacker out of the dipper, making all the turbo noises and hoping to step up the pace. Things are still greasy at the sweeper, however, with both ends of the Mr. 2 complaining about adhesion, and Greg asking both of them to please sort it out because it's time for full throttle. At 200 odd Ks, however, revving hard and forth, something untoward happens. Greg shuts the car down and parks it. Later it would turn out that someone had sneakily put a bunch of chunky little metal bits into his sump. He's super out of shape at 2. We're on board with Brad Jessom now, to see how the Evo goes on slick tyres as he takes the worrying but apparently popular choice of running slicks in the first session to tick up some points in the unlimited class. He passes Leon and the parked up MR2 of Greg on the run down to turn 2. Brad is very much not fucking around as he uses all the real estate available, pushing the Evo to its limit on the cold track. A big lock-up on the way into the dipper, but that's no reason to back off apparently as he pushes it hard on the way out. It washes wide a little at the sweeper, but then it's time to put the hammer down. A VMAX of over 240 kilometers per hour and a blistering time of 1 minute and 6.9, setting the pace early on. Dan, having set a 1:17.0 on his first flying lap, pushes it hard at the sweeper in an effort to keep up with Brad's Evo. Oh well, never mind. Greg catches a tow back to the pits in the unhappy MR2, and then it's time for Group 2. And before Adam even has his camera pointed at the track, Stuart Hill has turned his Civic around at turn 2 on the warm-up, and Mark Holroyd steers the GR Yaris around him. Mark lets it all hang out in the all-poor Yaris, and Stuart goes around the second and third turns, this time without stopping to check out the scenery. It's too foggy anyway, what are you talking about? Grant Rivers demonstrates how to drive an EF Civic while keeping it pointed in the right direction, while Brian Matchett and Blair O'Brien follow in the shiny black Holden and a shiny black Porsche. Alex Reed follows O'Brien's 996 in the big wing, somewhere underneath which I am assured is a Nissan S15. G1 Park in the Toyota MRS leads the 350Z of Phil Finlay, followed by the Starlet GT of Bruce Clothier. Ashneel Lal in the Toyota Chaser is hoping for a better run than he had at Manfield, where not turning turned out to be the wrong way to take a corner, and he slightly bent the Chaser. Definitely not foreshadowing, that would be some hack shit. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Over the last 2 seasons he's developed both his car and his ability impressively, with just a few hilarious hiccups along the way. The Chaser tops 210 over the hill, which in hindsight may have been a little too fast as he struggles to get it turned into 1. A smooth run through the infield, though not intimidating the corner apexes to any great degree. A conservative run through the sweeper, not letting the 1J have any sniff at ruining things by doing turbo things at corner exit. A 19.6 is a good result here and now, though again he forgets to turn in, overcooks it a little, takes the wide line. The hell was that, I don't hear you ask, but feel safe assuming you would like to know. This isn't door-to-door racing. How has this apparent collision come about? Watch and learn an important lesson about cold slicks, reactive driving, and just generally being careful. Stuart Hill catches up to Ashneel on the way into the hairpin. Ash stays wide, but Hill is unable to get the Civic pulled up and turned in, and smears it all along the driver's side doors of the Chaser.
Oh dear.
Indeed. Brad Jessom was fastest in Unlimited with his 106.9. Stuart was second fastest in class with a 12 and Van der Werf on a 13. Leon Scott took an early lead in Pro Open with a 107.9 from Hodges half a second down the road on 8.4, while Hirst pulled out a 15.9 before his car exploded. Holroyd ended the session on top of Pro Street with a 114.7 to O'Brien's 16.6, with Finlay just besting Lyle's 19.6 with a 19.5 of his own. Matt Gray threw down the gauntlet in Street with a 111.9. Longair was the only other competitor in Street class in Session 1, recording a 17.0. Eventually the fog lifted and Session 2 commenced, looking a bit less grey and miserable, with Adrian Rivers looking to improve on his Session 1 113.0. Matt Gray wanted to hold on to his Street class lead. He'd need to beat Darryl Curran's RX-7 to tie up the class for the season. Brad Jessom was running in Pro Open this session, looking to replicate his Session 1 performance in the Evo. Glenn Hodges and their shed-built Micra had a gaggle of rally homologation specials between him and victory, but naturally he'd never complain. Oh look, it's Aaron Fadadal in an Evo. If Darryl Curran can beat Matt Gray, he can take home Street Class honours. That's likely to be easier said than done, however, with Matt setting a fairly devastating 111 in the first session. Notice LGBTQ plus ally Darryl Curran gets the twin Doritos spinning just as fast as they'll go, getting the tail end out at the hairpin. A little bit of a limmy bash, just to let everyone know that he means business. He crosses the line with a decent 114.4, but he'll need more if he's to avoid a tiebreaker tomorrow afternoon. Now we're clinging onto the end plate of Matt Gray's massive Street Class spec rear wing for a look at his effort to tie up Street Class and force a tiebreaker with Darryl. Over 240 km an hour, more than most of the field could manage on Pukekohe's full back straight. He's a little loose at 2, but gathers it up. A cloud of smoke ahead, signalling that someone else has definitely done a worse job very recently. Up the hill from the hairpin, and very nearly achieving the same speed that my Sentra does on the main straight. Not feeling particularly pressured to hold an inside line, he gets the sweeper out of the way and unleashes the 2J for a scorching run up the hill. And that is a 109.6, a new street class record at Hampton Downs, and a definite kick in the dick for Darryl's chances of holding onto a street class points lead.
Hello, darkness, my old
bash from Darryl there just to say hi to Matt, but the wankle cries uncle and he's forced to retire. Now we're on board with Brian Matchett in the HSV GTS for his first flying lap of the session. He takes turn 1 in a business-like manner, the big Holden taking the fast right-hander with aplomb. The big V8 asks for more revs at 2, and Brian reluctantly accedes with a nudge of the sequential shifter. Uses all the revs in third on the way into the dipper. A relatively unusual slow in fast out approach for the sweeper. It makes sense to maximise corner exit speed, but it's a long way around that bend if you don't hug the inside. And finishes the lap with a 1:13.8, nearly 5 seconds faster than his session 1 time. For the remainder of the second session, Group 2 play a game of avoid the turn 4 apex, mostly pretty successfully. Now let's enjoy Matt Gray's real-time reaction to finding out about his new street class lap record. I couldn't have said it better myself. Aaron Fuderdale took the unlimited lead from Brad Jessom with a blistering 105.997, while Scott, Jessom and Hodges claimed the top 3 Pro Open spots with 107s and 8s. Mark Holroyd stayed at the pointy end of Pro Street, knocking a 10th off his session 1 time from O'Brien and Finlay. Matt Gray of course claimed fastest time in Street, 4 seconds and change up the road from Curran, who was in turn a second and a half quicker than the legacy of Longair. Saturday's final stint saw the weather threatening to piss in the competitor's proverbial porridge and also on the literal racetrack, with Brad Jessom giving it heaps in the Evo, though he failed to record a time this session. Adrian Rivers demonstrates some S-chassis things in the Sylvia. And Brian Matchett makes some V8 noises. With the warm-up lap out of the way, Rivers aims for a smooth, trouble-free lap. Oh well, never mind. Brendan Soul leads out Group 2 in the Corvette, followed by Alex Reid in the S15, Blair O'Brien in the 996, and then Dan Longair, whose rally-bred machine longs for the freedom of the unsealed surfaces spread enticingly along both sides of the horrible grippy grey stuff. Phil Finlay's 350Z leads the MRS of G1 Park, the little mid-engine Toyota nipping at the cankles of the Z car through the infield. Soul's frankly excessive Trans Am spec Corvette is thus far unable to outrun the pack of slightly more stock gear behind it. Dan allows the Legacy to have a little off-roading as a treat. Park has gotten ahead of Finlay, demonstrating once again the inarguable speed advantage of a red car. Let's jump on board with Phil as he chases down a little Toyota in a biggish Nissan. The mighty VQ35 sings the song of its people on the run down to turn 2, and Phil gives it a downshift when it sounds like it wants the opposite on the sequential shifter I didn't know he had. Is there any more melodious sound than that of a big-piped Nissan VQ at flat knacker? Yes, is the consensus, but never mind that, because it looks like Finlay's gaining on Park, who gets just a little out of shape at 4. Park dives over the crest and into the dipper with Finlay in hot pursuit. I don't know what RPM he's hitting on those downshifts, but it makes my conrods hurt just thinking about it. The Z's 6-pod mill again shrieks its terrifying mating cry across the downs, its prey driven before the sonic assault, running for its life, nay its very soul, all too aware of the unavoidable truth that hearing loss is both cumulative and irreparable. Phil records a 19.694, just 5/1000ths of a second faster than G1 Park, though he had also run quicker in the first 2 sessions. No one improved on times recorded earlier in the day, but the previously shithouse forecast for Sunday had become much more optimistic, and hopes were high that more records would tumble on Sunday. Join us next time to find out what happened on day 2. Would the plucky upstart Micro snatch victory from the might of the rally homologation machines in a David vs Goliath reversal? Would Brendan Purdy snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in Pro Street by being a bit too unwell to race? Would Darryl pull a fucking rabbit out of a Dorito-shaped hat and beat the screaming Supra of Matt Gray in the by this point nearly inevitable street class tiebreaker? Time will tell, loyal viewer. See you then.